Iran's state broadcaster has come under fire from an Israeli airstrike, and this happened live on television. Those are the visuals on your screen. The moment can be seen on camera where the studio is rattled by an airstrike. See for yourself, listen in to this entire sequence that played out just a few minutes back on state television in Iran. Iran has called this a war crime.
آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استادیوم آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود.
So this bombing took place mid-broadcast as Iranian state television, and you can see on your screens how the rubble kind of flew inside the TV studio as the anchor was giving that broadcast, and this happened after an Israeli strike. The broadcast resumed after some time, but Iran has called this a war crime on social media, also made that statement that it will retaliate to this Israeli aggression. But it's a dramatic piece of footage when it comes to the situation in West Asia as Israel continues to hammer several sites inside Iran. And as you can see, Iranian state television mid-broadcast feeling the brunt of the Israeli airstrike. I'm joined by my colleague Siddhant Mishra on the broadcast, who's been tracking all the developments coming in from the West Asia conflict. Siddhant, a dramatic piece of footage coming in when it comes to the offensive Israel has mounted against Iran. Mid-broadcast, the TV station is targeted and the anchor scurries out of the studio as soon as possible as Israel continues to vow more attacks against the Iranian military infrastructure.
Well, that's right, Ayushman. This is IRIB headquarters in Tehran. In fact, this is kind of a state broadcaster for the government of Iran. And in fact, they have many wings which are TV broadcasting, radio, and you know, the information which flows from the government is broadcasted on these platforms. Perhaps if an Iranian wants to watch what is the government's take or stance or decision on some issue, then you know this particular platform was for that. So it's a state broadcasting headquarters which have been targeted by Israeli forces, and in fact, many videos are circulating on social media platforms. The one which we are playing on our TV at this point in time, where a woman who was reading the news was suddenly got up and went to save herself because just at that moment only, during her live bulletin, the Israelis struck this particular premises. Now, there is a statement, Ayushman, which has come from IDF, and IDF says that the Israeli Air Force conducted a precise strike based on intelligence targeting a communication center. So they are calling it a communication center that was being used by military purposes by the Iranian armed forces. The building was used by the Iranian armed forces under the guise of civilian activity, covering up the military use of the center's infrastructure and assets. And in fact, Israel also has to say that prior to the strike, the IDF provided an effective advance warning to the civilian population, including phone calls to mitigate harm to civilians as far as feasible. So Israel has to say, one, that this particular headquarters were used for military purposes by Iranian armed forces, and second, that they had given a warning, including a phone call, to mitigate harm to civilians as far as feasible. Having said that, this headquarters is situated in the heart of Tehran. It's a very big, huge premises, perhaps one of the biggest complexes premises in Tehran, and you know, this particular broadcast station, Ayushman, was also a reflection of how Iran promotes women empowerment in media, how Iran supports independent media. Perhaps it was indeed their propaganda tool but they projected it as if this is an independent group. So, striking IRIB headquarters in Tehran perhaps it could be taken as climbing an escalatory ladder, Ayushman. And the kind of footages that have come from Tehran after this. In fact, Iran has started running a campaign also, perhaps saying that now the international journalist fraternity should stand with Iran, the way the independent journalists, the Iranian journalists have been targeted by Israeli missiles. So it would really be interesting to see which way the narrative will flow, because IDF has to say that this particular complex was being used for the military purpose. Iran has to say that this complex is IRIB's complex, has nothing to do with military, and journalists have been targeted by Israel in this strike.